Hi, and welcome to the next installment of this unit's lectures. And today we're going to talk about some of the final themes of geography. This one is movement. When we talk about movement, we could be talking about the movement of people, migration of animals. You see a bunch of butterflies down at this picture that are moving probably from, I don't know, Canada to Mexico. We could be talking about goods. We could be talking about non-physical things like ideas or words or phrases or cultural products. So let's take a look in a little more detail. So examples of movement could be, as mentioned, goods moving from one place to another. If you look at the clothes you're wearing and check out the tags, well, they're probably not made in South Carolina. They probably were made in China or Philippines or Indonesia and sent here on a giant container ship like this. We could be talking about non-physical things like the exchanges of culture. Do you guys know the Russian word for hipster? Like this guy? It is heapster. So both the word hipster and the concept of what it is to be a hipster have clearly moved from Brooklyn all around the world, including to Moscow, so this guy can wear kind of, his hipster uniform. But if you've watched other things like, I don't know, foreign movies, which we'll do some in class, or you listen to, I don't know, music from around the world, you're also engaging in movement, the way geographers would look at it. We're also, as mentioned, talking about the movement of people, and this could be legal movement, like with immigration. We could also be talking about the illegal trafficking of people across borders for sweatshops, that kind of thing. And that's also definitely one of the things that geographers do. They look at both legal and illegal activities. A lot of the time we're looking at large-scale movement when geographers talk about movement, but it doesn't have to be. It could also be small-scale systematic movement. Things like patterns of the way people commute to work on a given day, something like that. On the smallest scale, this wouldn't be something many geographers would be interested in, but you could talk about the patterns of the areas where you walk around your house. Like if you had an overhead map of your house, you could plot out the areas that showed more movement and less movement. So again, geographers can go from large scale to small scale, but they generally look at not one-shot random movements, but systematic processes. Next theme of geography is region. Now, a region is a group of areas with at least one common characteristic. So on this map you can see, what do you think this map is called? If you guessed South Carolina barbecue regions, you would be correct. Apparently we are right in the mustard belt, and all of this yellow area has the characteristic in common that the predominant style of eating barbecue is with mustard on it. And then you can say, you got your vinegar and pepper, your tomato, your ketchup. I don't understand that at all. It makes no sense. Who wants ketchup on their barbecue? But whatever. So we can be talking about many different types of regions. Political regions are one very important type of regions that we talk about. These could be countries, like the U.S. is a political region. They could be cities because they're governed by one particular set of laws. So Columbia is a political region. If you went a little bigger than that, Richland County is a political region. South Carolina is a political region that contains many other smaller political regions. This region that we're looking at here is the European Union, which is a group of countries who've come together to have some common laws and some common governments. So that then becomes an enormous political region. So we can be talking about all kinds of scale here. Another type of region we talk about is cultural regions, and culture is the learned, shared ideas and behavior that people practice or do or think every day. So when you're talking about a cultural region, you could be talking about, for instance, as this map shows, the baseball team that people are most likely to support in any given area, because that's the act of supporting baseball teams is an aspect of culture. You can see we are deep in Braves territory right over here, although it looks like, no, Nationals territory ends a little bit before you get to South Carolina. And Yeah, it looks like Reds and Pirates territory is also out of South Carolina. So we're solid Braves country, but it's a an interesting little map to look at and see if it matches up with your preconceptions. All these poor people out here, they have no teams near them, so they tend to root for just random teams or whatever. I root for the Red Sox up here because my dad's from over here, but that's just me. But cultural regions can involve culture in the very broad sense. Like Chinatown in New York is a shifting area. It doesn't have its own laws. It's not a political region, but it's a place where there are a lot of people of Chinese descent. Chinese is that is Mandarin or potentially Cantonese those are two different forms of Chinese. Are the primary languages spoken there. The food is generally Chinese, and so on. You could be talking about a cultural region like the South of the United States. And if I was to ask you what characterizes the South in terms of its culture, you might tell me people say y'all in this general area, and they eat grits, and they listen to country music, and so on. And those would all be cultural aspects of the South. So another type of region is a physical region, and these refer to characteristics of the natural world. So we could be talking about ecosystems, the kind of web of plants and animals. We could be talking about soil types and so on. Here we have a map of physical regions that is very different than the cultural map of South Carolina we looked at earlier that showed the different barbecue types. Here we have different types of soils and different ecosystems. So we're kind of right in this area. So depending on where you live, we could have people coming to AC Flora who either live on the tip of the intercoastal plain or in the Sandhills or the Piedmont. And as you go up towards the mountains or down towards the coast, this can show you the way that your ecosystem is going to change. And the final theme of geography we're going to talk about is human-environmental interaction. It gets at how people interact with the natural environment of their area. And it can be impressive things, like for instance over here on the left you see the Bird's Nest Stadium, which is a really, really interesting and beautiful stadium that China built in Beijing before the Olympic Games. And over here on the right you have actually the exact same stadium, but here in this picture what's being emphasized is not necessarily the stadium, but the really horrendous air pollution. You can barely see anything in China in a lot of days because people have just polluted the air so badly that you just can't see anything. Kids in Beijing have lots of asthma and other lung problems. My parents lived there for a little while, and they said that they would go out in the day, and once you got back to your apartment at night, you would just be hacking up like gross black stuff. So you can have very bad or very good human-environmental interaction. Examples include building dams, which do really good things like generate electricity, but also can do bad things like, flooding, canyon and river areas, or stopping fish from swimming upriver and reproducing. This here is the Hoover Dam, very, very big, that stops up the Colorado River and makes a lake out of it, Lake Mead. We could talk about killing native animals, and the American bison / buffalo, I guess you can call them one or the other. People tend to lump them together. Were almost driven to extinction by overhunting by the Native Americans, but also the Western or European settlers. And this is actually a picture that's hanging up at the Columbia Museum of Art, so you should check it out sometime. It's pretty cool. We could be talking about planting trees, growing forests. There are a lot of areas and a lot of countries that have kind of tree planting programs going on to turn the environment back into a forested area or something like that. And you could be talking about like the broadest scale aspects of human environmental interaction, climate change. This is something we're going to be talking about more as we go through the course. But we're using up a lot of energy, putting a lot of carbon into the air by from factories and power plants and things like that. And that's, as you guys know, that's kind of keeping more heat than the Earth is used to in the atmosphere, which is going to have changes both good and bad, depending on who you are. For instance, if you're Russian or Canadian, you are probably pretty okay with the idea of things warming up a little. But if you live on, say, an island in the Atlantic Ocean, you're probably not okay, because that means the sea levels are going to rise and you might be flooded. So all types of human environmental interaction tend to have both good and bad sides. All right, I think we're done. Good job.